Affirmation. We gather today to duly and faithfully carry out our duties to the best of our judgment and ability for the advancement of this district and the benefit of all of our community and fellow citizens. Coorong District Council members acknowledge and pay respects to the traditional custodians of the land and waters, the Nudjanderi people whose ancestral land on which we meet today. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of Aboriginal people to the country and pay our respects to elders past and present. We also extend that respect to all First Nation people. Thank you, councillors. Apologies, I have none. I'll move to acknowledgements, and I'm going to start by acknowledging, councillors, you were made aware or so ago about the resignation of our Manager of Infrastructure and Assets, our Director, I might say, David Moselle. Over 10 years of service with this council, including a long time acting CEO last year during our period there, and I wish to acknowledge publicly his abilities and his tenacity and his just general good nature. Council, and I wish him well in going forward in his next challenges in life. Secondly, I also note the passing of Leon Pitcher, and I understand he was the last Chairman of the District Council of Canalpin Downs. And Councillor Arthur, if you could say a few words around that, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Leon was, as you said, the last Mayor of the Coorong District Council.
Canalpin Downs Council.
Canalpin Downs Council, sorry.
Otherwise we're in trouble.
It was back in the old days when they had a very funny system where Canalpin identity to be the Mayor for one period, and then Tintinara identity to be a Mayor for the second period. But, Leon was a very enthusiastic member of the council. He did his homework. He had a way with words that used to sometimes get him into a lot of trouble, because he would get his tongue twisted, and, you know, one of the always got the horn by the balls instead of having the bull by the horns. That was one way of describing him. A gentleman, scholar, and a very, very enthusiastic advocate for Canalpin and the surrounding areas. He was one of those councillors you wanted, because he looked after everybody, not just his own area. And that's a sad passing.
One will probably be a small bit for you elected members put in the minutes later. Councillor Bam just wishes to acknowledge the passing of Liz Warnes.
Thank you. Elizabeth, brave enough to say, certainly not Liz. Liz came to the area to marry a local farmer, Robert Bourne. Came here, and when she arrived in the district was headhunted by the hospital. Prior to that, had worked at the Queen Elizabeth. Down here, job to open up. Liz then proceeded in to take on multiple roles: tutor, matron, the hospital board in her own right, she was the lower board in her own right, and was it is shut, and I should say we were well known, and I'll make this comment, no infection in that period of time. Very proud of that. She then became the community health outreach nurse, progressed to managing that area, and I think well enough to say is that she was known across the district as we can read. Riverland Mallee Community and when she retired, unfortunately later, Elizabeth. Badly missed. I'll leave it.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you very much for that. Late items, Councillor. There is a late item. That's item 12, Infrastructure and Assets Report, item 2. So please make sure that we are ready for that. Hope you've reviewed that. I'm late this morning. I move to item 2. Councillor Arthur, point of order.
Just late on.
I will second that.
Moved councillor Arthur and seconded councillor Yench. Accept the late item. Any discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Sorry, councillor. I move to item 2, confirmation of the minutes of including the confidentials held on the 15th. I just note here that the amendment to the December minutes, councillor Yench's comment at the last meeting, we're being omitted from 2 meetings from his report. Staff have checked this and the councillor did not attend either of these meetings. So, councillors, we will not be putting in councillors' reports. Apologies for any. Someone move that way, please. Councillor Roundtree. Confirmation of minutes, councillor Hill, thank you. Any debate around the minutes? Being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you unanimously. No adjourned business. Item 3. Minute action list, councillors. Item 4. Sorry, councillors, be with me. You have moved under our plan to start moving you around the chamber, so where particularly Councillor Bland's hand is, it does not work better. Other hand, Sharon, be really good. You want to start, councillor? Just practising, thank you. For the public's benefit, we've started moving the councillors around the chamber out of interest. Any minute action list, councillors? There being none, I'll move on to questions with notice, item 5. Start, councillor, with you, councillor Arthur. Note on notice. First one, happy?
Make it easier, just down to the last one is the only one I have a query on.
One. So you've had several. The last one is in relation to maintenance at Kintanara. You're asking?
And the explanation, the $400,000 or $412,000.
Second to last one in my book now.
Put in the plant machinery, but it's classified as a land transaction. You've mentioned it as depreciation, but why would it be under plant and machinery? That is a budget item that was overspent $300,000 with no explanation. The only explanation we got 2 months ago was it was due to not changing vehicles over and more maintenance. Now it is since the printout came, it's an end of year reconciliation, depreciation, ASIC and council. It's classified as a land, sort of land and plant machinery would be 2 different items.
The numbers that you quoted there, councillor, we had trouble finding. That's not to say they don't exist, but we didn't find them. The explanation for the amount that you actually talked about is actually a depreciation one. But if you think it's attached to land, we will certainly go back and have another look at it.
Well, the details that I should have brought it with me, the printout that was supplied by council actually had that on it. In brackets, it was item number, ledger number, land, the name, the account name was land, and the transaction description was end of year, obviously, reconciliation, reconciled depreciation with ASTIC and council. My query is, it should not be all on plant and machinery, which gives a false indication of the maintenance.
So the split may not be completely correct, but what date was the piece of paper that you're referring to?
When did you send it to me? That was the end of it was the, you sent it to me as the end of financial year, budgeted figure for 1920, the actual expenditure for 1920, and also the budget figures for the breakup for this year. I asked for.
We'll come back and have another look and we'll circulate it.
I'll find it and tell you.
Anything else, Councillor Arthur, in your,
that's all,
your
thank
group?
you.
So I moved to Councillor Yench's, and Councillor Yench, I'm going to ask you in this case whether you could move that as a motion The word request is I've spent a lot of time considering it actually. And given there's a large body of work there, I think it'd be reasonable to ask the chamber to approve that. Are you wishing to move those 1 to 5?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'm happy to comply.
Seconder. Councillor Inch, you can speak to it.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. In essence, it's so that the council, particularly some of the newer ones who don't have a lot of the history with regards to the finance of the Canalpin Pool and its surrounds, have a clear understanding of where it is going to go, and the fact that pools are a wonderful thing, but they are a cost. They are not they don't give you an income, and they are not sustainable. That is not the reason not to have them, but it needs to be recognised that it is an ongoing cost to council on behalf of the community.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Roundtree, sorry.
Well, I agree with ratepayers being informed of what council acted. I will also just remind Councillor Inch that very little to zero fund.
Over here, Councillor.
It's a credit to the new council and the CEO that this important asset is now receiving the recognition and supported as always deserved. I would also ask the question of the CEO if any of the council are they maintained and provided to give back to their communities who pay the rate. Oh, I think we're singling out one asset to see if it makes money, and I would argue that I don't know that targeted here. A lot of money across the district on a whole variety of projects. I'm unclear as to why the Canalpin Pool is out just for an extra lot of information. But I support anything that gives transparency. I think the report will no doubt show that the costs of running the pool are much higher than the income it will ever generate. Every year. But there are many factors that come into that. The pool has not had regular opening hours. It's not feasible to allow volunteers to run this asset. And I think as part of your report back, we should consider the broader considerations around employing someone to maximise its potential and really get it right. Never given any love.
Councillor Taylor, then Councillor Bland.
Two questions. The first one, what is the cost implication there?
We haven't costed it precisely, but on first blush, that is a large body of work that would take some time. But I would say it'd be one person's work for a couple of days at least. Full time. $1,000? It's probably more, through you, Mayor, it's probably not so much the dollar cost, it's the taking the person away from their current duties that is probably the biggest impost rather than the actual dollar cost of the involved. As you know, most of our positions don't have a backup position, so if we take somebody out to do a project like this, we have to decide to prioritise whatever they were doing at that time and shift that priority.
And secondly, given that it is our only real pool facility and probably the lifeblood of the Canalpin area, the rest who travel to it and use it, is there any option for actually getting those hours extended, such as people like myself who can use it, because it's pretty restrictive at the moment, because it makes use of volunteer labour. So having a time or starting with a couple of days with longer hours, is there any opportunity to employ someone?
It advertised twice running up to this season to find a pool attendant. The difficulty we have is that it is only a part-time job for 6 months of the year. So what we are now starting to look at, is there a different model that we can combine a pool attendant with all the functions that happen at the pool, including the life-saving. Now, this is probably a fairly unique person, but we're going to have a look anyway. And then in the period between when the lap swimmers swim and the opening to the public, there's a gap. Then what other work can they do from a facilities point of view, whether it's mowing the grass or whatever, and that it's a job that goes for the full 12 months. So in our budget for the coming financial year, we were going to come back with a proposal that we change the model completely in terms of how we staff that, because advertising for a part-time position to look after a pool, every council in South Australia that has a pool struggles with that arrangement because of our very different seasons and the fact that the pools aren't open 12 months of the year. So we're looking at a different model now for next season.
Land and Councillor Hill.
Yes, Mr Mayor, look, I don't want to get into about whether the Canalpin pool should be, it is an asset, and it is certainly. However, I'm going to support this motion because, a little bit like Councillor Roundtree, I'm tired of hearing about what wasn't spent on over a significant period of time. However, because I do believe that under maintenance, breakdown maintenance, a range of other things, there was money spent. We never had the luxury of a significant grant that came in to be able to do this body of work that we now have been able to do on many projects. Not just so I would like to see, in a nutshell, what we have spent in over the 10 years, including all maintenance and pool running costs, wages, and I'm assuming that is what Councillor Jensch means by so I'm going to support.
Sorry, the CEO, please.
If the purpose of the question is to show that this pool isn't running at a profit, then we
No.
don't need to do that analysis. We have no commercial arms of council here, which means generally it's only the commercially operated arms that make a profit, and if they don't, they shouldn't be commercially operated arms. The facilities that we provide to our residents are based on social enterprise more than anything else. They would never be not even cost recovery, let alone a commercial venture. I
think it's about clarity around the costs over a period of time. Now that we've had the grant, that should increase over time. And I don't think it is. I think this body of work is just one of many bodies of work.
Hill.
Just following on from Councillor Bland, that was probably going to be one of my points, is that there's been numerous requests for staff to provide large amounts of information the last couple of years, so I don't think it's unusual to request further information, but it should only be done for the right reasons, done when it's suitable for staff to be able to spend that time. It's a damned shame we couldn't get that pool heated in economical and sustainable manner, because that would open up that pool for a lot of more of the year. And I think from previous discussions, we are actually going to review the whole pool precinct at some point, so that can be part of that review of what we're going to do for the whole area. So yeah, it'd just be interesting to see what comes out of it.
CEO, sorry, then Councillor Arthur. Councillor Roundtree, you've already spoke once. We're not yet.
For you, Mayor. With the this precinct attached to the pool, so as you know, we are looking at the next stage of the refurbishment is for the building. And as we look at that, one of the things that we will be considering, which is the Chamber has asked us many times, is to look at how we actually manage the RV, the caravan park, and all the facilities that go with it. So we'll be coming back to you to say, and we haven't worked it all through yet, but it'll be about how people would access that park and have a swipe system or some sort of electronic payment for if we want to provide showers, the washing facilities, and so the toilets. And then I'm thinking that generally, and back to the conversation about cost recovery and profit making and all those sorts of things, the recommendation probably will be around that people can park there for free, but if they want to access the other facilities there, that there's an electronic means for them to do that.
Sorry, Councillor Arthur.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I really can't see the point of this motion because we know it costs money to run. If we have a look at the income and expenditure quickly, Deb should be able to do that for last year. From the report, it'll tell you I think the income was about $18,000 off the top of my head, and I think the expenditure was about $83,000. So it costs you that sort of money to run. It's no different than any other pool. Tatiara, believe it or not, run two of them and run them both at a huge loss, and a lot bigger loss than we do because they're both Olympic-sized pools. It is a necessity. Where do we finish if we want to look at, are we in the business of providing assets for our community that generate money, or are we there to provide assets for our community for their use? If we go along this line to do this, do we now go in and say the next one, right, let's find out the cost of mowing all the lawns in Tailem Bend and the 3 blokes that work there? Is that generating an income for us? No, it's not. But it's an asset and we've got to look after it. It is very, very strange that, well, there's no pool anywhere. I will think in the world, I say, to make a big place that runs at a profit. And if you read the advertisers, one called the Adelaide Olympic Pool, which runs at a $32 million a year loss, the Adelaide City Council. So it is an asset. We've got to look after it. Yes, we do lose money on it, but quickly looking through, they should be able to find it. If I had that printout with me, I would have been able to show you. Unfortunately, I didn't. So I'll be voting against them.
Councillor Roundtree and Councillor Taylor.
Really, we're looking for a management plan and running properly. You don't need to have all information to be public. But it can be, I'm not saying it can't. Number 2.
Your question is to the mover, whether he's prepared to do that. I'll ask the mover.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm not prepared to change, and the reason being that the caravan park has always been an integral part of the management of the pool, and that's always been a difficult thing to understand the financial implications to both. It's purely to be informed and know what it costs. As for mowing, you know what your mowing costs, so you don't begrudge it. I don't begrudge the pool. I don't.
Get a chance to write up.
Done. Yep. Thank you.
So you are finding the opportunity to vary emotions. Councillor Taylor,
Matt,
you're in the same zone of question.
through you, Matt, I still don't understand what the intention of the question is.
Mover may well wrap it up. I'm going to ask, does anyone else want to speak? And I'm well aware, Councillor Lean, you're the second, you haven't. But anyway, you don't have to. If anyone else wishes to speak for or against this, Councillor Qualman.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Councillor Roundtree, Mr Mayor, that take out, was it point 2 and what was the other point? Number 5, and remove the caravan park. Otherwise, I'll be happy with that too. That's my view. Thank you.
Councillor, any other councillors wish to enter the debate? Got a question?
Just a question. How can we anticipate the income in the future? We haven't decided as yet what we're going to do with the caravan park. We're going to make it an RV park or a caravan park. My way of thinking, it should be an RV park.
The question is, we don't know what we were looking for.
Well, how can you anticipate your estimated income when you've got no idea what you're going to have there?
What a business plan.
Okay. Now for the debate. Councillor Jens, you get to close debate.
Get to close debate. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I think we're splitting hairs. When all information to be public. It should be public. I can't understand why it wouldn't want to be. To remove reference to the caravan park, I think makes the motion useless, because the caravan park and the pool have been synonymous. They are one and the same. The caravan park has generated at times significant income, which is relevant to the costing of that precinct. It's purely to eliminate the misunderstanding that the previous councils have ignored the plight of the Canalpin Pool. They have not. They have spent the money as required, even though it was difficult at times. But in the end, it was spent, and the pool has generally remained open unless there was significant extenuating circumstances. So it is in the best interest of everyone to know what it costs and what we're up for. I don't begrudge them at all. The Canalpin Pool is an asset that should remain open and remain functional for the whole district. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Being no further debate, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Motion is lost. So the people voting for the motion, sorry, I said that Councillors Leng, Yench and Bland. Councillors voting against are Councillors Hill, Arthur, Taylor, Walman, Rountree and Simmons. Thank you, councillors, for that interesting debate. Questions without notice, councillors?
Mr. Mayor, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I did miss out one of the questions.
Had many?
Yeah, no, I'd just like a little bit more information from the CEO regarding my question about the main street of Tintinara and the Meridian Strip.
Meridian Strip sounds like some nightclub I may have
Well,
inhabited when I was
it's not a
younger.
Meridian
medium
Strip. It
councillor,
is a dead, absolute shocking area at the present moment. The town is absolutely ropeable. In fact, last night the Scarlet Pimpernel blokes were out there with a 4,000 litre water tank watering the trees to keep them alive. Now,
Your question is...
Well, I had a response before the CEO told me to send everything through her from one of the gentlemen involved in this, and they said that the main fault with this was a computer program by Hunter. And because of the COVID-19 details, they had not been able to get anyone over to look at it. So the computer wasn't working. Now, that is entirely different to what's happened here. I know they do have fractures and all that. But without the computer, you still can work it manually. Well, the question is, which is right. Last year, we had the same problem with the computer buggering up, and it was telling us that it was watering the oval when it wasn't.
Pretty good computer in your area. Always raining there.
You know, to leave it to...
Just a broad sense. Look, James, you got any sort of comment around, is it multiple things or a singular thing?
Yeah, referring to the oval or the medium?
No, I'm referring to the Meridian Strip.
Meridian Strip, something else.
So when I spoke to a couple of the staff yesterday, they mentioned that it's to do with an overpressurisation of that. Cause of that overpressure. But they have been blowing T-pieces, popping threads on sprinklers and things like that. They rectified the sprinklers yesterday. Another sprinkler out of the ground. They're definitely working with it, and it hasn't been working. Working on rectifying the to reduce the pressure that's having these ongoing.
Well, they told me because the computer wasn't picking that up and working.
Previously, I'm not sure if
Note in the report that meantime we need to keep it wet enough to get through. Oh, we're going to have an inch of rain next Tuesday, but there you go.
I could receive a
That's
report
what
on
I'm
that,
a
Mr. Mayor.
councillor for Australia Day. Councillor Taylor, you've got something to add to this question.
No, are you moving on to questions without notice?
I'd like to.
Question without
I'll
notice?
start with item 5.2, questions without notice. And you can start then, councillor Quam.
Thank you. Has the tank been connected at Wellington East?
Road tank. James.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's been connected. Plumbers are on site.
Thank you. And has the problem with the suction pipe been rectified?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, it hasn't. We're sourcing a contractor likely to. Eddie? We're working on it.
Any timescales?
I don't know off the top of my head. Sorry.
We'll come back to you with a timeframe.
Quamman.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Taylor has stole my thunder. 2 points that I was out of my three. One was water supply issues at East Wellington and the plumbing in of the new tank. The other one I wanted to ask then while we're on the subject, through the chair to the acting director of construction assets, have we commenced desludging current tanks, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, once we've got the new tank connected, we'll clean the old tank.
The questions without notice, councillors. Councillor Arthur.
Question is to the CEO. 24th of December, I sent a copy of a text to you from one of the local B-doubles drivers regarding nearly run 2 cars off the road over a period of 2 days. Trees over the road. Has that problem been rectified?
I spoke to Mr. Lesky, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, I spoke to him earlier in this week or late last week. Or yesterday morning, I think Monday. And I undertook that I would go and have a look at that road. I'm going to Salt Creek on Friday, so we're going to do a bypass and have a look at the road. So he was happy with that.
Road it was, councillor, is which one?
Homestead Road?
Homestead Road mainly. On which end?
Yeah.
We'll have a look at that again Friday. Any other questions without notice?
I'd like to ask Chamber in general what it is, the general feeling is with Mr. Mandel.
Councillor, right at this stage, we are waiting for David to come back with what he would like. Right, if any. That's what we're waiting for at this point in time to acknowledge his time here. Taylor, you indicated you may want to speak.
Question, has David indicated?
But we're working on that, yes. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While we're on this subject, through the chair to the CEO, what's going to happen to the allotted vehicle as per the salary package, please?
CEO can answer, but I can ask it about April, May.
changed
Both
that
the directors no longer had a vehicle, their own private vehicle, so probably actually helps your answer is that no spare vehicle. As you know, there's 3 hybrids out the back.
Done better.
That's all we've really got now. Councillors, any other questions without notice?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
I just want council members have a discussion post.
Around this general.
Number of issues.
Yes, councillor. I've indicated, I think we might have a special meeting from this meeting in the next one. I'm just not sure, but further schedules, but several things I'll take on board what you requested. Anything else, councillors? There being nothing, you move to item 6.1, the Mayor's report, councillors. You may see there that particularly ABC, but then the advertiser around the Salt Creek bin episode, and you see myself visiting Salt Creek on Friday. Note item on the 18th of January was yesterday, was we attended Adelaide around the high risk intersection with James Bridget and myself. Councillor Taylor.
Mayor, you have omitted a meeting on the 7th of January with a
Quite right, councillor. My fault, sorry. It's on the date is the 7th. 7th of January, thank you. So, sorry, on the 7th of the 1st of 2021, I met with Jeff Loveday at Wellington East around principally East Wellington water concerns amongst others. Thank you. Add that. I'll put that up later, sorry. Okay, there's no questions. The Councillor Bland, sorry. Well, you're still that black seat. I mean, the opposite hand, I really. Yes, that'll be a lot better.
Okay, Salt Creek.
Yes.
I gather from what the CEO. And there very soon. Can I ask who we're meeting with? And I'm assuming it will be more than the previous or the owner of the now roadside stop.
The meeting down there is in response to a request by that gentleman that I could go down a meeting. It's not a general meeting, it was in response to his request.
Thank you.
Councillor, as we've indicated, we'll drive down via Homestead Road. I think we'll get I understand there's a coffee van that may be in that location.
An approved coffee van, yes.
An approved one even, and we'll have I think we'll have a general reconnoitre of that area. As you know, a couple of months ago, we met with the senior representatives of the Department of Environment and Water around a facility, or potentially a facility as part of that area, and we are meeting, as you know, on the 5th, I think it is predicted now, with DIT. My intention would be to try and bring those two government departments and ourselves together, work on a process of what facility may or may not be justified, right? As in the locality of Salt Creek. I'm well aware we have no land there. Running sore, I think we need to get on top of.
Certainly also an opportunity, if I might, to be able to do a whole range of things in that area. And I think you've shown the council that in the past. My other point to make is I drove into Taylor Bend from the western side, and bins are overflowing. So it's a common problem.
But it certainly is, I'm afraid.
Right, western, did I say? Western side.
Western.
So it's been a problem everywhere, but this is actually.
It's slow pulling them down. A little bit slow pulling them down. When's the official pulling down Christmas?
Lining boards there as well.
For Christmas. Councillor Ling, then Councillor Bland.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just on the Salt Creek issue, I just want to be confirmed by Acting Director IA where the extra rubbish bins are now located and what information has been provided to media, because after the Roadhouse failed to reopen in 2018, my understanding the 8 bins that were council supplied at the Roadhouse for public use were moved to Policeman's Point Hotel, which took up the slack of providing coffee stop, etc., etc. Is that still the case?
Yes, we do have public bin available at Policeman's Point. There's one public bin available at Salt Creek. I didn't. Actually,
Thank you. Councillor, I think it'd be fair to say we just need to prove up that we took them back, or we relocated them to Policeman's Point. But that's where I think about with that process, and I take on board your comment. Councillor Taylor.
Mayor, the picnic table that is down there, who owns it?
My understanding from the previous director is it's ours.
On private land.
On private land.
Is ours. That was also because of the same issues, if I might.
Sorry, go on, Councillor Taylor. Yes.
So is it feasible to remove that picnic table and therefore eliminate the opportunity for stopping?
I don't think that would eliminate stopping. What happened, and our council wasn't alone, and it's a common issue, not just in South Australia. National parks don't have bins in them. It's a standard practice here and everywhere else in Australia. But as soon as the camper or the traveller moves out of the national park, the first thing they do is find the first bin they come to and pop the rubbish. Given that over this Christmas in particular, nobody left the country and everybody was travelling in Australia, it was newsworthy across nearly every radio station. I don't think taking the table away will make much difference at all.
Continuing on then, Mayor, are we
Good question.
going to therefore put out extra bins at all high load areas? Because Tailem Bend frequently is overflowing and does it every opportunity for holidays, school holidays, etc., as does Wellington East at the camping stop down there, as do many other areas, including Meningie.
You raised the question of what's our role in terms of providing travellers with rubbish services. You were spent standing on the ABC. It's a statewide issue, and I'd be feeling more comfortable if the state didn't keep on bumping up the EPA levies on the rubbish we collect, if we pay on this particular rubbish one. The question is very broad, in my view, around what's our role, providing what some people believe should be state government's highways bins. I would hope in at least the Salt Creek's position, arrangement.
Respectfully, Mayor, I didn't ask that. That wasn't my question. My question was, are we going to supply bins everywhere else?
The answer will be, and I've seen an email dated at the 23rd of September around bins either side of Moorlands. Department of Infrastructure and Transport said that they very much appreciate us doing bins there, and they look forward to our offer of service because they found them hard to service. So the issue is at a very broad level, in my view, around what should we provide over what the state should provide. In the interim or the short term, we're going to provide some more bins at the Salt Creek Policeman Point area. Mid to long term, and this is part of the meeting on the 5th, is to understand our relationship with particularly debt around rubbish. One of the issues I sick of ringing the staff about when I come through Tailem Bend with those three bins on that first parking bay blowing rubbish across the road. I really do. But one of the oldest rules of rubbish bins is the more you put out, the more they'll get filled. And so, in a way, around some of our roadhouses providing bins being good, because they probably don't put them all out at once, or they don't get filled at once. I know that sounds like an oxymoron. So I'm trying to get from, hopefully in this meeting with DIT, we'll get a bit of a position of where they're heading. Me, we're the people running a rubbish truck to Salt Creek regardless. I'd like to say, well, logic to me means we should remove the rubbish, but I'm not going to supplant or take over the department's role, and they'll come back and say, well, every other highway. I'm not answering your question very well, but the point is we've got to be careful that we just don't take up all the slack for other government departments.
Respectfully, Mayor, why don't we put those bins at the mobile food facility where it brings a financial advantage and also encourages people away from one particular spot that is not in use to a spot which is in use?
Yeah, we are providing 2 additional bins at the state maintained rest area. At the table, yeah,
We're in this situation doing, well, I believe, state maintained is in front of the, where you described the coffee van. State, that's the designated state maintained one, not the old roadhouse. But we are at this stage in the short term picking up that state. I think we need to get a position from the department around, what are they really saying? And the email about the either side of Moorlands is very seminal in telling us it looks like they don't want to do it. They don't pick up bins in townships, any of our townships now.
Don't charge.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I reckon you are next, Councillor Bland, then it'll be Councillor Roundtree and then Councillor Hill.
So, a bin at approximately the distance of Salt Creek.
Yes, we do, but
Part of the discussion will be about who pays.
correct. I think that's the basis of all the discussion, to be quite honest, Councillor. Councillor Roundtree, then Councillor Hill.
The more bins we have, the more people will feel Actually, is there a legal recourse in tracking down people? Yeah, for us.
Well, we could do that, but I'm comfortable in monitoring people personally. But in terms of, once again, our discussion on the 5th, it'll be around the Princes Highway precinct through Tailem Bend and the general visual aspect of it. And I think that southern entrance, at least, is probably ripe for a refit. I've seen some plans for that, but I probably don't know if we should get in the path of security cameras. That's an interesting slope to start taking us down. But the question will be around how often we should empty those bins, and perhaps sitting on that beautiful windy ridge that it is, whether we couldn't in the future in a redesign do better.
Further to that, I think even just having signage saying that, it might just stop people from doing it. But we owe it to the townspeople that live who are then confronted with that rubbish on their doorstep every day to find it. Efforts, hoping that the council tries every means possible.
Oh, we accept that. Councillor Hill.
Given that the picnic table belongs to us, we could minimise perhaps part of the problem by, if there's the ability to move that picnic table to where the coffee van is, if there's, that's a fair table.
So at the moment, I understand that the picnic table stands on a piece of what we call road reserve, which is not necessarily ours. But yeah, that would be an option. I'll just come back to the central. Councillor Bland started this discussion. I think CRME will meet with Adam, but we'll have a pretty good look around. I mean, I don't know that big a town. I won't get a look at all of it.
Mr Mayor, if I may.
Councillor Lang, and then I think Councillor Arthur.
The picnic table is actually on community title, held by 3 agencies and private residents, including the roadhouse owner. It's not on a road reserve.
Hoping you make it simple. Councillor Arthur, and I'm sorry,
My question-
I think we're getting close to the end of
My
this
question,
short
Mr.
discussion.
Mayor, is
It's going to happen.
how do we allocute to all those business owners that pay exorbitant rates for extra bins for their rubbish that we're going to supply all these others around the area for nothing? We charge $320 per annum for an extra red bin. Some of them have got 8 or 9 bins, so they're paying $2,500, $3,000. Going to Holus Bolus, provide bins for everybody else, no charge.
Illustrate the complexity of the process.
I can answer, Mr. Mayor.
Well, needless to say, Salt Creek, there may be a coffee caravan opening up. Very much take on board what you're saying around what time do we pick up the role of picking up rubbish businesses towns. Now the question remains of how much the businesses collect rubbish from the general traveller. Council's tried to deal with this over many years, and I'm probably hoping discussion with DIT to get a clearer outline of what they think they're responsible for. Starting point, or we're well aware that we have probably 5 or 6 roadhouses in particular that take what maybe
And just as another question, would you be able to call into the roadside stop on the Culburra side just to have a look at
Certainly will.
what's in there before you go down
U-turn on Holloway,
Homestead Road?
Councillor.
It is absolutely
It's a
unbelievable, the
departmental,
rubbish in there.
it's a departmental one.
Furniture store in there, easy.
Yeah. Councillors, I think we've had a pretty fulsome discussion. I wouldn't say it's been questions without notice, and there's been a discussion. Myself and the staff a fair bit of work in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I just think the best thing is for us to go down to Salt Creek again and have a look around and probably report back to you on where we think perhaps after our meeting this year. Any other questions without notice? Being none. My report, which go back.
We did.
We raised it out of the bin.
Came out of your report, Mr
Yeah,
Mayor.
no, thank you. Sorry, Ollie. Thank you for that. Anything else out of my report? Sorry. I might just quickly say that there's a proposed meeting time for the Maley Netherton Bushfire Committee Working Party for a community meeting in mid-February. Feel reasonably confident at this stage that appropriate government agencies are working to help the people there, and I will be watching intently whether the state government decides that the fire at Lucendale is a bigger fire than the one at Netherton, which of course it was in size, but for the one that's affected, it's all the same to you. So, please. Councillor Arthur, your report, anything to add? I just might thank you for filling in for me, particularly in November. I had several issues going in November, but did a lot of work as Deputy Mayor in that period. Councillor Ling.
Sorry.
You've got a question.
Yes, I do. I can ask Councillor Arthur through the chair. Can he elaborate on the interview with the ABC radio regarding 90 Mile Desert? That was about. And also December the 11th, what required inspection to accompany or to be accompanied with Councillor Coleman and the General Inspector? What was to be inspected at Tintinara?
Well, first of all, the interview with the ABC was the afternoon show with Narelle regarding the 90 Mile Desert. They have a recording from some 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago sometime about a particular area, and it was about Corilla. Snow Rodder, who was one of the original people to settle in Tintinara, and how he just finished shearing his 3,000 sheep, and how it was the 90 Mile Desert, and on what it is like now. It's quite interesting actually, because Snow shore 3,000 sheep, which was considered a hell of a lot of sheep those days on Corilla, and the equivalent now with Corilla, which is actually a dairy, and it's about 40,000 sheep. So that is how the area has changed.
The ABC approached me, and I said,
That's good.
I lived at the start and the finish of the 90 Mile Desert.
And it was all about how the 90 Mile Desert.
I referred it to Councillor Arthur.
And the other one was Councillor Qualman and the General Inspector and I were looking at the weed situation and some of the roads, particularly with the cooch spraying of the roads, and also the weed population. I believe there is. Weeds program in the future.
Councillors, there will be, I understand, pretty soon, a new strategy for weed spraying, or a revised or whatever. We'll note the criticism in the community vision process, but elsewhere around various weeds. And so I know the staff have been addressing that issue. Councillor Ling.
Thank you.
Yep. Palmer.
Mr Mayor, nothing to report, just an apology, Mr Mayor. I've omitted the failed to put in the meeting with the General Inspector and Councillor Arthur. It's not in there, so I did attend.
in the area? Right. Any other councillors with something to add? Councillor?
Notice of motion.
Moved on to item 711. That's what you're saying to me? Can I just seek leave of the meeting? Bring forward the report in the infrastructure and assets, item 12.1. Help inform this debate, please. Everyone in favour of that? There's a further discussion around this. I think leave's granted. Councillor Taylor, you have the floor, though.
Through you, Mayor. Could we not have would it be feasible to actually put in artificial grass for the cemetery whilst it would have a higher upfront cost, it would eliminate the overspray, the spray, the damage to the headstones, which I've spoken to 2 or 3 people who are buried there. Really quite distressing for them. And this is just a problem that is not going to go away. So is there an opportunity to put in artificial grass?
There could be, councillor.
We haven't considered that as an option, so we'd need to do some work around the costings of that.
Councillor, you still have the floor, but if you were to move the motion, that does not preclude that in the future. I read the motion. Take the different councillor moving someone's motion.
Mr. Mayor, before we move a motion, could we just present 10 minutes to have a talk about this rather than when you're going to move this one or mine? They're both, you can't move one and then the other one as amendment because they're quite opposite each other. 10 minutes.
And councillors, if you're all in agreement, is everyone happy to suspend for 10 minutes? 3:58. And this will include a review of item 12.1 of the agenda. Everyone happy with that? Okay, we'll suspend meeting procedure. Perhaps I might start this debate or this discussion. Sorry, around James, around your report at 12.1, if I may. Leaving the recording going, we're not going to confidence, no.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So, off the back of Councillor Arthur's motion, we've noted they water irrigated. We thought other options available for the cemetery through to council. There's a couple of options, obviously. Whatever option we proceed with, cost that's going to be attributed to council regardless of what option. They were the two options discussed. The driving factor behind proceeding with the option to go on Warden Cemetery as it stands. That was the driving factor behind that being put forward. By all means, the sustaining to the best of our knowledge.
Haley, yes.
Through you, Matt, the costs are not going to go away as long as we are watering it one way or another. And if we continue to use non-irrigated water, the cleaning is not going to go away either. And whilst artificial grass is not exactly the friendliest product on the planet, something like that, or it would certainly keep the look of it. But I just cannot see why, we have, I assume it's not the biggest cemetery that is in the country. And Bill and Ben Cemetery is gravel. And whilst it's not the most aesthetically pleasing, we want to keep the aesthetics for Tintinara, we could just go to an artificial surface. So maybe that needs to be another option which is looked into, which sort of negates the expense of future cleaning of the headstones and future watering. So as long as we leave a supply of water there for people to use, fill flower vases, etc. Really, that it's something that we have to look at.
Arthur?
I'll just make the comment. Council changed over to the bore water probably about 5 or 6 years ago, after we had a bill for about $8,000 for a quarter. It was infeasible that much water could have been put through the 19 mil pipes, but in their wisdom, they decided they would take it over and put it onto the bore. Fortunately, it's the bore water, even though we've tried two methods of doing it. It was the last one which we did was successful at Tatiara. Same problem with their headstones. But at the original motion, I moved here a couple of months ago, but been down there, been grabbed by the ear and taken down there actually to show that some of the headstones that had actually been really cleaned up, and one you had the picture of, are stained already from the bore. So there was never any staining problems when we were using SA water. There was, a problem with the watering system. You'd go down there the middle of July and it'd be watering. So what I proposed with my original motion here was to hook it back up with the 19 mils. We don't have to go to the 25 mils yet. See if it is possible. Well, it was possible to irrigate it before with that same system, so I can't see how it's changed. If SA water can't quite keep up, it's only a matter of putting a tank in, so it starts out of the tank. The other thing is maybe we could use a tank for the CWS system, because that's not working at the present moment. CWS scheme's not working, but that is what the people want. I get quite a few facts in the air about this. I'll send an email to the CEO regarding one of our residents who went down to visit a recently departed husband, and over Christmas, I got Christmas, Father's Day, Mother's Day, go and visit the cemeteries. So mine is, I think it's quite a feasible request, and then we can check out what sort of dollars are used. As far as what the costing here of the water, I think that is very extravagant. I mean, just a little bit of a wetter on it to start off the season. Nowhere near that cost, because you wouldn't have to water. Normally you would get away with one water a week, I reckon. Cooch and cooch. Take much keeping going, as you know, if you've got it in the paddock.
Councillor, thank you. Councillor Ling.
Thank you. Sorry for barging on Councillor Rountree. She was up first. But I was actually, in this matter, I was actually going to propose all the lawn be taken out and go to the gravel. Councillor Arthur has just spoken to the ABC in regard to the 90-mile desert. Tintinara is in long desert, the 100-mile desert or the 90-mile desert, depending on who you call. It is in a desert condition. I do understand lawn, I believe, was put in to stop sand movement in the cemetery some time ago. I do agree with Councillor Taylor's proposal. I hadn't considered it, but the artificial turf would solve a number of problems, including weed control. but it would need, the turf would need to be UV adequate for all the sunshine that's down there. And also we'd need to consider safety factors, the matting blew up or, you know, as a trip hazard. But I would go along with the...
You'll be Councillor Roundtree, then Councillor Yance, but just before that, we are being monitored now. Probably a request to speak pretty well straight at the mic if you may. Councillor Roundtree.
I thought the idea of the turf, the turf bridge on the side, sidewalk on the edges of the road, it actually retained a lot of heat. That could actually be more of a hindrance than a help. You mentioned, Councillor Lean, through you, Mayor, that the sand drift was an issue. Is there, like, if we were to take that out and put gravel dust or something down, would sand drift continue to be a problem for that area?
Well, I have the joy of farming land that's got rocks and sand. So yeah.
I would support going back to trialling the SA water option. I think if the infrastructure's there, it's a green space, it's what the people want, then I would think at least giving it another go if it worked before and just trialling that first. I think we can move to the other options that exist, move into and just see how we go.
Okay, Councillor Yance, then Councillor Qualman, and we run out of time in a second. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I concur with Councillor Ling. I believe the watering system, we need to turn it off, but we do have an obligation to ensure that the headstones are cleaned adequately and brought back to a level that the families are happy with. To keep ongoing watering, I think it is an expense that we do not need. It is, yes, the 90 Mile Desert, but the other cemeteries don't have lawn. The other cemeteries have sandy environments, and the gravel aspect works very effectively. I've had people comment to me on the other cemeteries, Taylor and Ben and Meningie in particular, and they're very pleased with the way in which it works. To use artificial turf, I believe, would be a mistake, and I agree with Councillor Roundtree. When you look at the artificial turf that is being used in Murray Bridge on Swanport Road, it gathers and holds the rubbish, it holds the dirt, and there is a significant maintenance issue, I believe, with what is in Murray Bridge. If you are basically laying artificial turf out in a rural environment in basically what is a paddock, that has wind, and there's be a lot of grass seeds, etc., blowing through from various times, it will be high maintenance. Gravel has been proven to work effectively at the other cemeteries when it is laid correctly. And it is simple, you maintain it by spraying the weeds out. Green's attractive, yes, but we live in different times. Water is now very expensive, and I do believe it will continue to be so. And I think it's an expense that is unwarranted.
Councillors, we've got an extension of time on our legal proceedings. 5 minutes. I've got Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I believe I have got a yes out of that, by the way.
Thank you. I may proceed. I'm in concur with Councillor Roundtree, Mr. Mayor, that revert back to SA Water. And yes, as Councillor Ganch said, water is expensive. However, people of Tintinara have had this nice green couch cemetery covering. And apparently, and Councillor Arthur backed this up, the SA Water doesn't stain the headstones, is that correct? Yep. So I'm total support of reconnecting back up to SA Water and keeping the place nice and green, because I have all those concerns I've heard from locals down there of sand drift issues if it's let go. So that's my view. Thank you.
Anyone else? As I'm looking at myself, Councillor Bland, Councillor Hill, who haven't spoken since. Not yet. Not yet, you're not. Councillor Taylor, we're going to wind it up.
Is it possible to split those parts, those two parts in that motion?
Oh.
To move separately,
What
cleaning
you
the
see
headstones?
on the screen I can see is not what I would be leading with, because I'm on notice as a motion, and Councillor Arthur did have a motion, and I've asked for us to refer to 12.1's report, but not necessarily pick up the recommendation. So I will be in the hands of probably you, Councillor, when we go back, because you're the ones that had the floor originally. Just in the broad sense, so we finished the broad discussion. Yeah, Councillor Blair, yes.
Clarification, what you just said. So Councillor Arthur's motion, if it doesn't get up, then we then wait to 12. Where then the motion could be split. Would take it there, or you could leave it at 12.1.
What I'm saying is that at this stage, my understanding is that, you know, the council has moved it. No, but Councillor Taylor led the debate, and she can move Councillor Arthur's motion wishes, because she'll be. So I think Councillor Bland, when we move back into formal session any moment, will resolve this issue. We simply ask the report.
Clarity around
Yep,
process.
certainly. Everyone happy when we go back into formal proceedings, councillors? Okay. I'm going to go to you, Councillor Arthur, because it's probably your motion, and so you're going to move it as read, or what would you like to do?
Actually, I've just been reading it. Pretty ordinary in the way I've written it, actually. The council.
Oh, you can improve any time you like.
Yes. Converts the water cemetery back to SA water system immediately. Ascertain what additional work may be required to upgrade the system, the cost involved, the conversion of SA water done a minimum cost. So what I'm proposing here is that we hook up the system that used to be there before we went to the bores. We can read the meter, know what it's going to cost, because that meter only serves the cemetery, and then do an adjudication in April, May after we've finished. So it is a quick fix. Just a little bit of history. It is now up on the hill. It is still rocky underneath. The reason it was moved from down below is because every time you drug a Dave, you had to get a jackhammer in.
In country, councillor. Now, I do need to move it at some stage, and
I moved it, yeah.
Moving your motion as,
Yes.
I think the second question I'd ask you, given the debate we've had, is are you wanting to add a second part, which is picked up in the report, around the cleaning of the headstone? There's a second motion, or councillor may wish, or you can put it in this motion.
Yeah, well, I would include that second motion. That definitely needs to be done.
So that would, point two would be council
Arrange for the cleaning of the headstones.
exit headstones.
Not necessarily with the contractor you have advised, because people that have done the cleaning of the headstones, probably a different system to what they are. Maybe one of the service clubs might be able to help out there.
Leave that. Councillor Roundtree, you indicating you're seconding the motion? Reserving your right, or you're speaking now? You, councillors, we're in debate, and we're just putting the proceeding with the once-off cleaning of all impacted. There's a bit words around the stones. Councillor Hill and then Councillor Yench.
Are we going
I did say April, didn't you?
As is an original motion, notice the motion reads, it says up until the end of November 21. So I think we'll know by then. Costs and some consumption, and we'll just see where that any sustaining risks or issues. Councillor Yench.
I'd flag potentially an amendment, because I would like to see the two split.
No foreshadowing, sir.
Well,
Not allowed,
I
councillor.
disagree with the connecting to the water service, but I totally agree. Headstones. So if that be the case, I will be voting.
Well, Taylor, then Bland.
So my question was whether we were
Mover and the seconder are putting them together. The way I read them, mate. Bland.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I think that around parameters, around costs, timeframe.
Hey, anyone else?
The watering.
What's provided in the report?
I read the report, thank you. Or who actually wrote the report for the gold?
Minimal cost mean?
What does, I agree, what does minimal cost? Who's minimal cost?
Question is around in the report on the notice of motion page. Who provided that information? Sorry.
So in the motion that came from Councillor Arthur, there are Councillor Arthur's figures, and in the report that we presented, which is 12.1, which has a similar set of figures, they come from staff in terms of working it out. So on page 38 of your report are the staff estimations of cost, and the one in the notice of motions, it's Councillor Arthur's comments down, and mine started the CEO comment.
Would it be better if we put those numbers into the motion?
I think the motion, in the hands of the mover and seconder, involves the words, if the conversion to SA water was able to be done at a minimal cost. They're the ones that are leading people to. Because in the first thing, I think we're talking about a difference between 19 mil and 25 mil water meters, to be quite honest.
Well, maybe if you cemetery back to
water,
SA water immediately, and ascertain the costs involved over a 2021. Because it's only the cost of converting it back is minimal. Only hooking it back up where they took it out. Not as if we're putting any new mains and sprinklers in there.
Variation if the second is happy with basically tidying up what some people might read into it, conversion to SA water at minimal cost, and the words around that. I think that's where people are having trouble.
And then monitor the watering regime and
monitor and see what it uses.
it's option up the end of November. Yeah,
Councillor.
it doesn't have to be that long if you don't want it. June
Taylor,
financial year.
Taylor and Bland.
Yeah, Mayor, I don't have anything to add. No, the wording's been removed.
Right. Councillor Bland.
I just
Make
Make
a
this point.
as an answer, yes.
what we're doing here is reverting it back to what it used to be. We'll have a look at what it's costing us to water. Maybe astronomical. I do not think it will be. At the end, if we can make it the end of June, and then if at the end of June, because you don't water during the winter, if it's astronomical, then we can put up a proposal to go to artificial turf or rubble or whatever. I'm just putting up what the community really want is to maintain it as a lawn. as I've spoken to them about it, costs got to be amicable. You can't be.
Very long answer, councillor. I accept your answer though.
But that's it.
Councillor Roundtree, then. Gill, thank you. Thank you. You are the seconder, so we need to just get to the point.
I think that if the community have had the grass before, the condition of the soil can become the maintenance of the turf will be an issue. I think seeing it all that it requires in the short term is to rehook things back up, then we should at least give that option a go first. And I'm all for reviewing it after in June or July and making another determination at that point. But I think it would be crazy to ignore the fact that we can just hook it back up now to mains water, analyse how it's working, and then make a better decision. Pull everything out now and replace it with fresh turf or turf or anything else now is, I think, just premature. Let's go with what we had before and just see how it works. We're only going to do it for 6 months. Let's see.
Councillor Hill.
I just felt this whole discussion has preempted 12.1.
It's a very long discussion, councillor.
12.1 becomes a little bit moot. But obviously, if we're going to clean the headstones, that's it.
Oh,
Mayor, could we change that?
June 21, I would suggest. End of
Ended by the
June.
mover and the second of June 21, councillors. Variation again. I think we're getting closer.
Which time they be reviewed or something?
Councillor Arthur, you agree with that further amendment? Further variation? Further variation? Councillors, we've had a fairly interesting discussion around this. I tell you, I went to the Bedford Cemetery a couple of Saturdays ago where a fire burned it fully out. So I've had a full clean out of that cemetery, whether we like it or not. Don't know where Bedford is, it's outside of Cook Plains. Councillor Arthur, you will close debate.
I'll close the debate, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So is everyone aware? I'll read it out. Move Councillor Arthur, seconded Councillor Roundtree, that Council, number one, revert the watering of the cemetery at Tintinara Cemetery back to SA Water immediately and monitor the watering regime and water consumption up until June 2021, at which time it will be reviewed. Point two, proceed with a once-off clean of all the impacted headstones. Everyone happy with that? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillors that are voting for the motion are Councillors Simmons, Roundtree, Qualman, Arthur, Hill and Ling. Those against? The vote councillors are Councillors Yench, Taylor and Bland. Thank you, councillors. That motion is carried.
I have a supplemental motion, please, Mayor.
Yes. Yes.
The council investigate alternatives to turf and watering.
Council will investigate alternative turf styles and
Alternatives to whether it be gravel, whether it be a newer version of artificial turf which doesn't hold heat, anything that staff can come up with which is an alternative, which doesn't require ongoing
Councillor, it is in
maintenance.
option 2 of a non-irrigated cemetery in the report in 12.1.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Bland, is there any great discussion, further debate needed, sorry? What'll happen now? The debate. Sorry, councillor.
Would the mover approve changing turf to alternative ground cover? So it considers gravel and everything else.
That's what's there now.
Councillor?
I'm not quite sure what,
So you,
it says alternatives to
Sorry.
turf,
Wait,
you're trying to get it.
Including turf.
not including
That's right.
turf,
Sounds like they don't, councillor.
alternatives to turf.
it was my
No,
misinterpretation.
no, no,
sorry.
it's not a misinterpretation. They just don't want to do it. Fine. Okay. We will close debate, councillor. Done it. Thank you. So the motion is that council investigate of how it moves. Non-watering options for the Tinanara Cemetery will not require ongoing, well, hang on, there's an oxymoron, hang on. That will do. Is that what you mean, councillor? Yep, thank you. I'm going to put this motion. All those in favour? Right, councillors for it are councillors Ling, Hill, Yench, Taylor, Bland, Rountree, and Qualman. Councillors against it are Arthur and Simmons. Therefore, the second motion is carried. Thank you, councillors, for your considered thoughts. I'm just going to ask for a break till 4:40.
That with a flash gun.
Welcome back, councillors. At 4:39, we resume the meeting. Best I can see, we're up to item 8, Office of the Chief Executive Officer report. And this is, there's a recommendation around the community vision plan, the draft. Your council wish to move that way? Councillor Ling. Thank you. Councillor Rountree is the seconder. Councillor Ling, you want to speak to it?
Thank you.
Councillor Bland, do you wish to?
I actually have a question. That's really a question in relation to the cover. I know it sounds romantic about it, and I love the photos. I think they've been done extremely well. I'd like to see a bit more dry land in there.
I live in it, councillor.
Well, I don't, so I'm more than happy, thank you. But to note that there's not a hay bale. There's a lot of, there's certainly a nice
I
one.
may consider changing one of them to give it a more realistic outlook of my farm, Your Councillor.
Beautiful picture.
No beautiful pictures of a dry land farm.
Oh, come on.
Lovely
That's on this
sunset.
one, that's lovely.
So,
Are they
anyway,
photos,
it's
sorry,
a comment.
are they photos that we just obtain internally, Ashley, or who's the master photographer in the area? Kelly's words, very good photos, very diverse. Recommendation, councillor, anyone wants to speak, because it's been moved and seconded. We have dealt with it in the workshop, but we need to move the process forward to public engagement. Opposed, thank you, councillor. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Council policies, of which there is none for review. We move then on to Section 41 committees and Section 43 subsidiaries. Audit and Risk Committee. Number 1, the recommendation there that the receive the minutes of the committee held on the 8th of December. Councillor Hill, are you moving that way? Thank you. Councillor Bland, I presume you're the seconder, or have you got a question? Thank you. Any discussion around those minutes? Being none. Motion, all those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Number 2, the dissolution of the Section 41 Committee, Tintinara Community Men's Shed. Councillor.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to report a conflict of interest. Not a member.
Material.
I am not a member of the shed, but I am the independent chair. So I will stay in the premises.
Claire, what particular interest we've got to do?
Received.
Yes.
Not a member, but a chair.
Actual interest, and you're staying in the room. We could note that, please, Ashley. Yeah, he said he's going to stay in the room, and if in the room you vote, that's how it works. There are councillor wishes to move. Councillor Rountree, and I take that Councillor Qualman, you had your hand up. Thank you. Councillor Rountree, you wish to speak to this? No. The Qualman. Oh, yes, councillor.
Yeah, can I just...
I certainly.
Just, I hope the council, by dissolving this Section 41 committee and they're going through all the process, will allow the committee to get insurances and all that sort of thing in place before they pull the... Is that the only money they got is what you've got?
As you know, we've got a presentation around insurances for our community groups coming up. I don't think I can give that commitment until we have that. Once it becomes an incorporated body, then it's up to that group to actually provide their own insurance. Now, whether council can provide that or not, it's still, well, for me, it's unknown because we haven't had that presentation yet about what is or not.
We've been for a long time wanting that presentation, and it's coming. Thank you. Anything else you wish to add, Councillor Arthur, as the independent chair? Councillor Bland.
I would just like to make the comment that I think our community men's shed is extremely accessible. Many tasks over the years. going out on their own.
You, Councillor Yench.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to support Councillor Bland in what she stated. They are an amazing group of people in that community and they are doing a lot of good. They will continue to do a lot of good because they have the drive.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Qualman, you're a second. Are you not going to close it?
No, I'm not going to close. Just a comment, if I may, Mr
Yes.
Mayor. I concur with the various other councillors and proud of the Councillor Arfin and Tintinara residents down there, all the great job they're doing, and for them to go out on their own now, they're obviously confident and self-sufficient, so wise move and good luck to them.
Beautiful. Thank you. Councillor Roundtree, you want to close?
Probably is a sensible word. The committees that are having to face this challenge as well, but I would reiterate what Councillor Arthur presentation. Sorts of things have the ability to cripple these sorts of programs, and it would be a terrible shame if it only raise money just to pay insurances without being able to go ahead. So I would implore council to just keep an eye on
Motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Seven, the corporate and community report. Item 1 is the Canalpin swimming pool adjustment due to the seasonal short season. Councillors, Councillor Roundtree, we're moving that way.
Second.
Councillor Lang on the voice. The discussion around that adjustment, the recommendation. Therefore, I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Delegations, Mining Act 1971, councillors. But Taylor. You're second. Is there debate around that, delegated authorities? Being none, motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Number 3, budget. 2020-21 first budget review. Are we getting Rex Mooney? Where are you, Rex? Find him on our screens, please. Hello, Rex. Welcome.
Hi, how you going there?
Need to unmute.
Oh, I think I have. Can you hear me?
How are we going, Sean? Is he alive and kicking? Or? Hello, Rex. Can you speak, please?
Yep. Can you hear me?
I still can't, unfortunately, hear you.
Um,
Don't know which room he's in, but
someone muted me.
I still can't hear him, so.
Has the volume on the TV.
While we get Rex on, is someone prepared to move the recommendation so we can discuss it? Councillor Lang, thank you. Yes. For a second to Councillor Qualman, so it's moved and second. Talk now, Rex.
Hello, everybody. How you going?
Put your hand up if you can see us.
I can see Rex, but I can't hear him. That's the only issue I have.
He sees us.
You can hear us, Rex, is that right?
Yeah.
Can't hear you.
I sent.
Meeting owner, says the meeting owner. Muted you.
Okay, how you going now? Can you hear me now? How about now?
So for the public's benefit, we're trying to get our financial advisor on Zoom muted.
John, do I have to do anything with these buttons?
Prepared to wait for a couple of minutes to try and find his voice, if we may.
Oh, now.
Hello?
Hey! Holy moly.
Rex. Loud and clear, Rex. Very
Trust I
proud.
didn't swear then, Rex.
They are being operative.
Welcome. I think you're online now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation around the budget review. Number one, do you wish to comment on it, please?
Well, what I'd like to actually do is I believe Sharon has actually done a fair bit of work for this and prepared for it. And the intention was for Sharon Whalen to present this item. So I
Wasn't looking forward to the handball.
back up. So I don't know. I'm happy to talk on it if you want. But Sharon, did you want to have the first?
Sharon, you allow the Rex, we're just going to find that little mic for Sharon.
Okay.
Sharon is in the new role of finance. Take questions.
Yes.
She's simply going to walk and get the hand mic. Rex, do you want to give a broad overview before the questions then?
Yeah, look, I didn't want to go into too much detail other than to just say we've considered this same report at the Finance Committee meeting and at the Audit Committee meeting. And what I like to point out is it's a top-down approach to the budget review. And really the primary purpose of adopting it is to satisfy the legislation. And from a strategic point of view, there's a fair bit more work going on to come up with a revised budget review number 2. Now, a lot of work's gone into that. And in particular, there's been a restructure of the staff list. And there's a lot of work going into trying to determine what our actual non-salary expenditure cost is. So what I'm sort of suggesting is, although it's here for consideration, I wouldn't be getting too concerned about anything that's in it. The numbers are basically, you know, they're a month or two out of date now, and really what we'll be looking towards is getting budget review 2 to you in the near future, and that'll have a lot more detail included in it, and would probably be a lot more useful from a strategic management point of view as well. So that's about all I've got to say about it. So Sharon, have you got anything you want to say?
So, Sharon, do you want to add anything to that at this stage or not?
No, I'll just wait for any questions.
Councillor, you got questions around this budget review?
Mr. Mayor.
Arthur?
Rex, just one question here. Rate revenue, favourable increase of $143,000 for this year. We actually had that in when we did our rates total as of the 30th of June. So it's not an increase in this year because as far as I know, and every meeting we had, that actual rating for Motorsports Park was in totals.
We'd had a notional figure. And so we're looking at, what the budget was prepared on was a 0% increase in rate revenue plus growth. Now, effectively, that 143,000 is growth, because if that had been charged back 5 years ago, well, that would already be sitting in the baseline or the starting point for your rate revenue when you're calculating the increase from one year to the next. So if you go back to the actual minutes and the reports that went up in July or June, whenever it was that the budget was adopted, you can see that what was adopted was exclusive of that 143,000. So that's effectively rates we've got from an increase in our ratepayer base that weren't included in the original budget figure. So they've been included in that one.
And the other thing is proceeds from sale of surplus assets.
Yeah.
Of the Donga at Alpen Pool. I think they should be put into their sale of assets instead of just getting lost into general revenue. And the sale of the machinery for 140 odd thousand, was that received this financial year or last financial year?
I'll just have a quick look for you. Hang on.
This is 30th September end date, this budget review one, and the proceeds from the sale were after that, because I asked the same question.
All right. And what about the 140 odd thousand from the excess machinery?
Sorry, that is the excess machinery. The shed at Canalpin Caravan Park was in last financial.
Last financial. And, sorry, Canalpin was in last and the machinery is in this. Is that right?
Next.
It'll be in budget review too.
Okay. It should, my opinion, I don't like it just seeing it getting lost into general revenue. Should
Oh,
be
no, definitely. If that's happened, well, that's a mistake.
Well, we did, last time we sold some 6 or 7 years ago, we sold 150 odd thousand dollars worth and it just went into general revenue.
Yeah, no, definitely shouldn't. And what should actually happen? Sorry, you go on.
Yes, it did.
I might have done, but it shouldn't have.
About 6 or 7 years ago, we had a big cleanup.
Yeah.
That just got lost within the system, yeah.
Yeah, look, and if that happened, well, it shouldn't have. You see, the way it should be accounted for when you dispose of assets, it's not actually the amount of cash you receive for the trade-in or for selling the asset via auction. What it is, it's a gain or loss on disposal of asset. And so what you do, let's say an asset had a written down value of $50 and you managed to get $100 for it. Well, you've made a gain on sale of $50. Okay, and so that's what gets reported in the statement of comprehensive income, but it gets reported in your capital section underneath your operating surplus or deficit if you're in deficit. So that's how it should be accounted for, and that's how it's accounted for in year end. A lot of the time throughout the year when you're budgeting, because it's that calculation, you're not actually sure what you're going to get for it a lot of the time. It's not actually included. So at this stage, it's not included because we don't know what we've got for it. But if what I'm hearing is that we traded it in for 140,000, well, what we need to do is we need to look in the asset register and see what its written down value was in the asset register. And the difference between that and the 140,000 will either be a gain or a loss, and that'll get reported in the statement of comprehensive income. So I can't comment on what happened in previous years, but that's what I'd expect to happen this year.
Other questions around this report? Here's it. There's no other questions. Councillors, I'm going to, that's the case. Ling, you're happy to? I'll put the motion, councillors. It is the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Rex, you're welcome to stay for the next item, which is work program. I haven't got a work program. Yes, I have. Number 4, the Audit Committee, Audit and Risk Committee number 4. The recommendation, councillors. Councillor Taylor, you're moving. Councillor Hill, thank you. Seconding. Around that, you wish to speak to it, Councillor? Any discussion around the recommendation, councillors, at all? There's none. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. I think that's thank you, Rex.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. You have a good
technology
afternoon.
good one day.
Sorry, what was that?
Get the technology right one day.
Oh, look, yeah, no, that's all right. Someone accidentally muted me at your end when I came in. And I've never seen that happen before. So, yeah, one day it'll work out. All righty. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks.
You have a good night. See ya.
Okay, councillors, we move to 12.2, which is the late item. 12.1 I've considered to been dealt with, if that's all right.
Move that way, Mr Mayor.
You're moving the recommendation 12.2 that council activate a loan, 900,000 through the Local Government Finance Authority for the delivery of the high-risk intersection project. Councillor, is there a seconder? Councillor Bland, are you seconding? Yeah, you'll have a question.
Well, a question is that I would like to see attachment of the intersection.
We could do that, Mayor. The document you've had before, but because it's small, but we will
I
attach
think
it.
it should be in the document we're moving, asking for the loan. And
Can I just ask, explain why this is worded in this format and where we're heading with this sort of layman's language, please?
So as you'll remember, councillors, at the beginning of 2019, just after I arrived, there was a whole lot of work that had been happening around high-risk intersections with the MRLGA. At that time, we had 18 identified intersections for our council, and the councils in that footprint had a variety of other things, but we were definitely the highest. At that time, we thought, well, not thought, but there was an interest from the Commonwealth and the Deputy Prime Minister to actually fund that project. As you know, the bushfires came along and COVID, and the interest from the Commonwealth disappeared. In the meantime, we've had several conversations with you about what the priorities of those high-risk intersections are, and we've moved from 18 down to 12 that we considered to be the top of the pops, if you like. At this point, also in the budget for 2021, our current budget, there was a notional figure of $1 million to be borrowed against this particular project if the Commonwealth at that stage had come to the party. The whole world has changed around that in a sense. But what happened in the budget for South Australia in October, I think, of this year, $100 million was put aside for infrastructure as one of their infrastructure building projects for post-COVID and to stimulate the economy. At that point, we looked at this project, and I think the Mayor has spoken to you about the option of actually applying for a grant under that arrangement with the state. We weren't too sure that it actually complied. And so the first meeting we had yesterday with the LGA, who have put in a whole team to support councils around the applications for any funds under this $100 million project. We had a discussion with them, and they know about the details of our project, and they are certainly saying that our capacity to borrow is okay, and the project definitely fits within the remit of the grant. What we then went to yesterday was also DIT and spoke to the two directors there who look after roads, because as we mentioned to you in another time in Chambers, DIT did not have a lot of visibility around this particular project, and we wanted to see what their interest was or whether there was any overlap of their suite of works over the next 12 months. Now, because they only had visibility after our conversation yesterday, they didn't think there was a overlap, but they were also keen to support us in some way. That probably is not a financial support at this point in time, but we're waiting for them to come back to us. There is a sense of urgency around this, because to apply for the grant from the state, they have to be $1 million projects or more, so it comes into that particular category, but it's a 50-50 arrangement. So what the paper before you is recommending is that we do a series of grants to leverage where at the end of the day, Coorong District Council has a commitment of 25% of the actual project. So we will, the question before you today is to look at the activation, I suppose, of that grant. Now, we don't have to do that until the last minute, but when we put in the application to the state for the $1 million or the 900,000 we want from them, we have to be able to say that Coorong District Council is committed to their 50% at that particular point in time, so that they will then match that funding, which gives us 1.8. What we will do with that 1.8 is then go to the Commonwealth, who have a heavy vehicle productivity program, support program, there's an S in there somewhere, to leverage our $1,800 that we've got against the Commonwealth, so that they will give us $1,800. So we end up with 3.6. 3/4 of that is grant funding and 1/4 of that is actually CDC money. So it's a domino effect that we think that we can get these upgrades to the roads that our community uses and are essential to our economy at 25% of the cost of what we think is the...
Councillors, before I go on, I'm sorry I missed to do this. I'm going to declare a perceived conflict of interest. I own and operate the vehicles that would be used in these sort of roads. For this sort of improvement, I've decided I'll remain in the room. Councillor Taylor.
Through you, Mayor. So I appreciate that the recommendation for this motion is actually just to seek the loan. However, I would like to see where we derived the 3.6 million from, so where those figures come from, how much certainty we have that 3.6 million will do the job, and because we've overrun in the past, most certainly. Do we have, or are we likely to get in there with no movement for companies to turn up and say, I'm sorry, but it's going to cost you another 50,000, etc. So I know that that's not included in this authority to draw down the loan. But I think we need more information. As I know we saw the document on the high-risk intersection. But was there a complete breakdown of costs in there?
Yes, there was per intersection, Councillor. One was, I suppose it'd be fair to say, James, unit cost, I suppose, with a substantial contingency allowed.
So did that go into any of the council meeting document? Because I thought that was an I&A discussion.
Last time we came to the council, the intersections. At that meeting, we made the decision to move Boom Road from stage 2 into stage 1. That meant that stage 1's total cost, I've just got it here in front of me, $3,490,000.
Is that in the council? Is that in the agenda items though? We've got here cost estimates. Cost estimate: 180,000 Dukes Highway, 250,000 Heinrich Road, blah blah blah. They're cost estimates.
We generally will never be at a project at this point that has detailed design in them. This project has probably got more detailed design than most, but you would have to say, and you're right, Councillor Taylor, that these are probably still unit costs or some sort of a costing arrangement looking at each individual intersection, but there would then have to be detailed design done.
So what I don't appreciate, or what I can't get my head around business, is the fact that you can put a cost on something when you haven't done built work. So it's kind of a guess based on, all right, authoritative information. But what happens when we need a contingency for an overrun, or what happens if we run out of cash and one of these has to drop off?
But in that 3.6 million, I'll call it substantial contingency allowed. Substantial. I have asked the same question, looking at the cost base of this. So on the basis of a unit cost for something like this, in the earthworks process, I would be reasonably confident HTS have produced a report somewhat accurate.
Yeah, because it concerns me coming in on a background of let's not borrow any more money than necessary. And here we are, whilst we can't can't sort of throw this away, given the amount of money we'll get in support from grant funding, it still makes me worried that we are going to deliver at the amount that we have suggested here, which is the 3.6 million.
I would suggest that we're not going to deliver anything unless we get the state grant out of the state budget, potentially. And I think we still wouldn't be delivering until we were successful in the federal grant of the heavy vehicle productivity program. As the departmental officer suggested today, if this doesn't qualify for a productivity program, if subsidy, one might wonder what would. But I take on board what you're saying, but problem we're having is speed the process, down the process, we have to be committed first.
I appreciate that.
What
However,
I'll be saying to you is, I don't see it proceeding without it staying within the ambit of the figures. Take a lot of contract variation. I think Loxton Waikerie have done theirs or proceeding with theirs as well, and they were the two councils in the region that did this. I don't know if
Oxford Waikerie have undertaken it. That discussions with them.
well, my second question is, what is the implication of payback for this 900,000?
because this funding is offered from the state, that we can then borrow, because we're using this funding if we're successful in our application, borrow the funds over a period of how many years? How many years we can borrow that funding for yet? No, but at 1.3%. State government has done a deal with LGFA to a degree of that.
Yeah, all the same though, I think
Still got to repay it.
our rate paying would like to know the implications of repaying this loan over how long, at how much, because I don't want this to run into a rates increase because of it. So,
Foreman and Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would totally concur with Councillor Taylor. I have concerns about borrowing money, even though it is at a cheap percentage, but on the simple risk that it might put pressure on our rate paying base. And well, I want to see it staying zero because we pay too much as it is. No increase. However, the question I would like to ask, if we borrow the money, and what happens if we don't get the two other grants? Does it just sit there, or what goes on?
Why I understand the recommendation is I won't be signing off because I think I get the job of signing the loan unless I'll be sure we'll have further reports around this. This is around the intent of we are serious. This is what this is about, the state at this first stage. The federal program we think closes program 5 or 5A in opens February and closes in March. So we've got a procedural process, and councillors, if we do not take up this offer, and we don't have to, from the states, that offer expires on the 29th of January, and we haven't got anything else. And it's a minimum project spend of the state government offer of $1 million. $1 million. It's partially why this was felt. Councillor Qualman, sorry, I'm
Just
cutting you
one
off.
more point, please, if I may.
Yeah.
Is that what the CEO said? There was 12 intersections? That makes about 300,000 average. Is that right? 12 intersections?
12 intersections.
Yeah, roughly 300,000 each.
Yes, so councillor, it is basically a lot of where our sealed roads meet. It's three main highways. There is 3 proposed for the Princes Highway, 3 plus 2 at Sherlock, but the Sherlock one's a little bit interesting, on the Mallee Highway, and I think 6 Dukes Highway, but I think Heinrich Road's included in that grouping, and Coombe Road. Councillors, the issue at Sherlock, and there was another accident a couple of weeks ago, is that is a straight crossover junction, and there's been quite a few accidents there or near misses, hit trucks, and so we took the opportunity to raise that with departmental officials yesterday. People might remember several years ago, a long time ago now really, there was an accident at a similar junction on the Karoonda Highway and Boundary Road up at Ettrick. Killed a bloke I know very well. And this is probably, unfortunately, at Sherlock, a reasonably likely similar accident site. So we have sort of, while we've put it in this program, we've made it clear to the department the productivity program won't address the road safety there. So we've seen if we can improve it from a productivity point of view, but not improve it from a safety point of view.
High risk intersection.
There's a high risk, and you know it. Yes. I reckon I Councillor Hill next.
Part of my question was probably addressed by Councillor Coleman's. The 12 intersections, is that just the state?
Yes. It would be fair to say, councillors, that some in what we may still pursue in stage 2 are, I think, 2 or 3 of them 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 are, I think, 2 or 3 superfluous would be a strong word, or not required, and there's a couple that need substantial other work, which we're hoping to pick up with on our meeting on the 5th of February.
Through you, Mr Mayor, part two of my question. I understand Councillor Taylor's concerns that things can blow out, especially around road construction. I assume that those intersections will be not all done at the same time. They'll be done separately.
The original proposal from the region, when we were first, I suppose, we thought we had an opening with the Deputy Prime Minister, and then COVID changed that. It was that the Coorong Council in particular would have 2 years to do the project because there's a large amount of.
So if we were getting sort of to near the end of the $3.6 million and there was a couple intersections, would they be able to be left, or are you obligated to do all of them? We're running out of money.
We don't believe we're obligated actually to do any of them in a way. And I heard of the discussion in the previous meeting about who's responsible for them. The other side of that debate may be we've been made aware they're not exactly crash off. What obligation have we got?
I mean, if you take the grant and you get the 3.6 million and you're getting towards the end of the project and you've spent the 3.6 and there's still 1 or 2 intersections to go because you've spent the contingency money, is there ability to just stop doing them?
I believe so.
How we would structure the grant.
Yeah, and have to borrow more money to.
Was Councillor Bland before you, but since you.
Got to keep getting used to looking that way.
I suppose even within the first level, there's ones that would be perceived to be more important. For example, we've got Heinrich Road in that group, which will become very important to us, and we'll be pursuing that in other forms as well. Councillor Bland, sorry.
I think my question follows along the same vein that we've been talking about, though, mine is about transparency, probably in the reverse. How transparent is the document? Our documents now process that they already know they tender allocate.
Through you, Mr Mayor, HDS.
Where is their document? How far wide is it spread? And basically, the amount of money we're about to allocate to those would be well known, even though we will go through a.
So, Councillor, your question raises anything in a public document budget, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. It just means that they already know how much money we've got and they've got to do 12 roads. Well, that's easy.
There would still be an expectation that due diligence was done on our part. So, although I think your suggestion is that they could inflate the price to meet what's in the report,
I would never suggest that.
There is a risk of any of our budget items, in a sense, open to that because of the level of public accountability. But we would use probably the LGA procurement process again, and there would be due diligence and an expectation that that would be considered quite clear.
Given this is, in effect, if this was got up 12 separate jobs, and we do it in stages, and we learn very early how accurate it is.
And my second part of the question, given all of the money that's been thrown around, contractors out there, those who cannot, are we likely to get an extension?
The South Australian funding bucket has to be expended by June of next year, I think. And the high vehicle, if it opens in Feb, James, I'm sorry, I don't know.
Just looking to the exact closure dates, but my understanding.
Mr Mayor, I'll move this because it is too good an offer not to be part of. Because somewhere along the line we're going to have to do some of these, and some of these in a pretty soon time rather than later. So it gives us the opportunity. Secondly, as far as contracting for it, I believe that council now should be a quote to do these sort of things ourselves. Preferential quoting in Victoria, every shire over there, they got a job, they actually have to quote themselves against it. Because we can get contractors to do other problem, you know, of someone knowing how much we're going to spend. It's no different than, I suppose, than the toilet block, you know, that's bandied around from 400 to 300. I just think I know it's money we've got to borrow, but at 1%, you're not going to get that opportunity very often. And with the extra 75% funding, you may not ever get that again.
I haven't got it yet, councillor, but I might note that you've already moved it about 15 minutes. Are you keen? And I know we've had a long day.
That was my wind up. But...
Well, I've taken it as not quite your wind up because Councillor Taylor's got a hand up and then Councillor Yench.
Yeah, ma'am, just a point of interest. Once completed, how much of these intersections will we have to maintain?
Through Mr. Mayor, so there exists a document called the Section 20 Highways Act. Typically speaking, it's 30 minutes back from the navigable lane of the highway is the responsibility of the highway, but that does change. Difficult to say exactly where it is on every, but there is the highway back to the government.
Get most of it?
Through you, Mayor, we already maintain these intersections already under that act that James has quoted. So, wild guess here, but given if we're going to upgrade them, the maintenance may be slightly less than what we do now. But it's certainly, we already maintain them to a certain degree for the portions that are ours. There's no new maintenance in this.
I'm confused. So
we already maintain these intersections under the legislation that James just mentioned. So there's no new intersections in
no,
this.
I appreciate that, but you just said 30 metres back. From what, the middle of the highway or from the edge of the highway?
It does change in the individual circumstance of the road, but I think what Bridget's getting to is the maintenance responsibility. Has been upgraded. We want
How much, considering any of these highways, let's say we've got a line on the edge, which is the highway's responsibility, how much of the intersection, where is it that white line onwards onto a council road that we're maintaining? Or what does the 30 metres apply to?
highway, 30 metres back from the centre of that lane. Property boundary. It does change on every single intersection. Act around it that puts in those guidelines, but typically speaking on the intersection. Highway side of that. Out in that act.
All of this has an impact on our depreciation going forward. And even though it's easy to say that the maintenance costs potentially would be reduced because we're replacing old for new, blah, but it still goes onto our total cumulative cost of roads going forward.
Guidance about whether it's actually an asset upgrade or an operational cost to the road. I don't know the answer to that.
Taylor, there you go. I want to make sure you... Councillor Yench.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, like everybody, I have concern about debt, but this is too good an opportunity for this council to pass up. We have far more roads than we've got on this list that need to be rectified with intersections. And I think I actually agree with Councillor Arthur. It's about time we got on and started eliminating these. Anecdotally, Councillor Cormann and I witnessed a B-double almost lose its load at the at Granite's Road intersection here. It went up on it one wheel. Well, it raised nearly a metre one side. They almost lost 3 decks. So we need to get started on these. We have other roads to do, and there are other priorities. I think I move that we put this motion.
Councillor? Or...
Yep, I move that motion be put. They're going around in circles.
Second. Yench moves the formal motion. The motion be put as does Councillor Rountree second. I therefore put that formal motion. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. So, councillors, I'll put the motion as the recommendation moved by Councillor Arthur and seconded by Councillor Bland. All those in favour? Those against? That is also carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We are up to petitions. Item 13, which I have nil. Item 14, I have no deputations. 14.1, public question time. We have no written questions of the COVID facilities, and it appears everyone's on holidays because they're not here because we have no public ones by the look of it. So I move to item 15, information document, councillors. Councillor Rountree first.
Organisational development. Do they all complete an exit interview?
Taylor, then Councillor Cormann.
Through you, Mayor. CEO meetings, functions attended. CEO requested that meeting with all of the councillors, but not all of the councillors are listed. So I believe I met with CEO on the 15th. I'm not sure about everybody else. That one's good. And also to the through you, Mayor, to the CEO, the meeting on the 21st with regarding the Wellington East water scheme.
It's around the same, what date was that? I haven't got the report.
21st.
21st?
21st of December?
Yes, it was around the same time that the questions were coming up about the tanks, the sludging, the connection. So it was really just a general question that, and nothing different that hadn't been asked in chamber before or email.
Clarification on that, if I might, Mr. Mayor. I also met prior to this date. All right.
Here's would a revision on that process where each of you had a discussion.
Just for awareness.
Coleman, yes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have 3 here. The first one is page 4, structure and assets regarding Coldy Road. What's going on there? Resealing program through the chair to the acting director.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So the Coldy Road ceiling is out near the rail intersection. Program of works, I think we discussed it then, but it's on
if I may, Mr.
All you've got, yep.
Mr. Mayor, page 6 of the instructor in asset, traffic counters, Granites Road. When will the data be made available through the chair to?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, they're still out on the road at the moment, as you're aware, so likely pick them up. February or March meeting.
With the James acting in the director's position at the moment, part of that is a resource issue in the sense that James is probably the one who does the data, and at this point in time.
Your third one.
And the third one, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair to the CEO. In the CEO's report, met with a local resident, a Tailem Bend resident, regarding use of the old CFS shed.
Yeah, so councillors, we're just awaiting clearance from CFS around contamination issues in that vicinity, but we understand that we'll hand it back to council, as is the process. Most CFS buildings that have, changed sites in effect. So, wish to comment?
Exactly, we're just waiting for a condition report. So I asked that we didn't get the building back until they made good the building, and they're just going through that process now.
Thank you, that's all.
Councillor Roundtree.
Person is also going on leave.
They seem to have babies. So,
Risky position.
correct. My intention originally was that David and James would play tag, that David would be coming back and James would be going on paternity leave when his partner has a baby, because that's in February. With the resignation of David, James will continue to act in the position. He will only take 2 weeks now. He was originally having a month off when his baby was due. Those 2 weeks we will cover internally, but by the end of next week we will go to market for advertising of the position.
You'd have one, councillor.
Podmore House. What are we doing to try and keep that moving?
So we've applied for an extension program.
I'm also worried about the fact that the community have been waiting and are waiting for the public consultation around this.
So with regard to the drought funding, we applied for an extension. Much because quite simply the trades that we require to do that work haven't been available. Formal advice yet, but pretty advice that we're happy to proceed.
The community consultation, that is on the list for this phone.
Else, councillors? There being no more out of the information document, we move to confidential items. So for those watching on live stream, please be advised that the meeting is about to move into confidence and the live stream will stop. Those who wish to view the end of the meeting, the video will be uploaded to YouTube 1 hour after today's meeting. Thank you, councillors. I've got item
Thank you,
Sean.
councillor Kwong.
Thank you, everyone. We'll move to close the meeting, but as Councillor Qualm has just said, Bridget, you've been with us for one day short of a year. Thank you so far for working with us. Is there anyone else got anything to say before we close? We've got,
I went house hunting on the weekend.
the joy of she's trying to pronounce Gamaraka, but she was doing like every other state person does. She could not get it right. Thank you, councillors. I'll declare the meeting closed.